Hey everyone, this is the Disjunct Diary, and this episode is for December 4th, 2019. So, since the last week, I think since a little bit before, but I didn't want to put too much emphasis on it because it had been fairly new at the time. Um, I've been having back problems for many, many years now, and it's always a pain just being able to just doing anything, whether it's sitting for too long in a certain position, standing for too long, walking around for too long. And for me, too long isn't very long at all. So I've been trying to figure out a way to be able to either strengthen my back or to just be able to find a way to give it a rest. Or just, I have really bad posture. So I feel like that's, a big contributing factor to my back pain. And recently I decided to try to do some like yoga type stuff. And I haven't done it every day. I feel like I should. I need to. And but I do it. I try to do it every other day at least when I get back home from work. And I've been standing or walking around for 8-9 hours or whatever. I'll come back home and I'll turn it on and I'll do it. And it's really helped me in being able to even know what the proper position to be standing in is. There's this one thing, because I never really did anything like that. I'm not much of an exercise person. I haven't done any type of sports or anything like that, and a lot of stretching stuff. Again, this is kind of a product of me just focusing on doing nothing but music all the time. And, when I go to work, I'm just there to do it, and I just space out and try to make the day go by as fast as I can. So, with just the constant doing something all the time, I just never feel like I had time for this before. And I'm trying to change that, trying to put more time into better habits. And anyway, with this yoga stuff, there's a part in it where they tell you to slowly raise up your shoulders up over, towards your ears, and then to decompress and put them back down as far down as you can comfortably go. And in doing that repeatedly over some days, I realized that I really was always in a constant, I don't know if it's an anxiety thing, because I tend to have a problem with anxiety, but just always being in this really rigid and my shoulders always rigidly upwards kind of position when I'm doing anything. And I've realized that with learning where the proper position of my shoulders lie, I can stand up straighter also like this. With realizing how to do certain stretches and things like that too. And I've been keeping that in mind when it comes to singing and when it comes to playing guitar, because I tend to hunch over really bad. And then with my shoulders up as I'm hunching, so it just, it just really starts hurting my back as I'm playing. And trying to record that way makes me really rigid, and I tend to mess up a lot as I'm trying to record something. And with trying to just relax myself and being present with it, it's really helped a lot. And I don't know if this is a widespread problem with anybody that's playing guitar, but if you feel like you have that problem, I would recommend doing some of this stuff. It really helps. And it's been helping me a little bit too with flexibility, because I hardly, do any type of stretches like I said before, and it's just been helping me with becoming a little bit less rigid in that too, because I can barely stretch at all. Back in school during PE class and stuff like that, people would I can't think of, some kind of arm stretch where you put your hand behind your back or something like that, and I could never get it past the base, when when you put your arm upwards and behind your head to try to you know, I mean, you're not supposed to be touching your back or anything like that, but, you know, you grab your other hand and you pull at it or whatever. I can't get it past, like, where my head meets my neck. I'm just not really too flexible. And I'm hoping to be able to become more flexible, a little bit more confident in the way that I move, and it's just been helping me out a lot. Anyway, outside of this, just, you know, trying to develop healthier habits. You know, I've been eating a lot of ham and a lot of other crap. A lot of sweet stuff since Thanksgiving happened. And I don't want that to go, you know, a whole month through December, because I know probably Christmas or New Year's or whatever, one of those, it's probably not going to be the best food that we're probably going to be having that day. So I just want to keep it a bit under control, at least, you know, until then, and then after that too, just to have like that discipline a bit more. But anyway, yeah, outside of this type of habit change, I haven't had a whole lot going on. I mean, I've been listening to a lot of music at work. Usually I'll turn on a podcast because, like, the different conversation will keep me, you know, it'll keep me spaced out so that the time goes by really quick over there. But I've been listening to a lot of albums that I hadn't heard in some years now, and I mean, it's been cool, you know, kind of like rediscovering some stuff. Not that it's like a, you know, like just stuff that, it's not things that are that crazy or out there that I'm going back to. It's like, you know, the standard things, you know, that everybody that's into metal, you know, knows about and listens to. Like, I've been listening to Cannibal Corpse again after some years, and it's pretty cool. You know, like that Bleeding album, that was one of the first albums that got me into the more extreme metal stuff, you know, after, like, past thrash metal. And damn, that album is catchy as fuck. Like, the riffs in it are really, like, I forgot just how ingrained those riffs are in my head. Because I listened to that album to death when I was, I don't know, like 13 or 14 or something like that. And I just never really forgot them. I guess they always kind of stayed in the back of my head ever since. And I love the albums before them too, Eaten Back to Life, Butchered to Birth, and Tomb of the Mutilated, as well as some of the ones post Chris Barnes. But that one is my favorite because of just the catchiness of it. The fast parts are catchy, the slow ones even more. You know, and not to say they didn't have anything catchy before or after that, but that one was like one after the other. It was fucking crazy. You know, there's certain moments in the ones before that were really catchy, but it wasn't like the full thing all the way through. But that being said, I listened to the older ones too, and those are incredible as well. Just like those bass sounds, Alex Webster is the shit. His, like, bass technique is really freaking cool. And I don't know if this is news to anybody, but there's, like, some old footage of when they were recording Butcher to Birth on YouTube. If you look up, like, you know, Cannibal Corpse, Butcher to Birth, like, recording session or something like that, it'll be a video of, first it was them, like, practicing, I guess in, like a rehearsal of them practicing one of their songs off of that album. I forget which one it is right now off the top of my head. I don't know if it was Rancid Amputation or something like that. Maybe, I forget. But they were playing that, you know, they were playing one of their songs on that album. Then it cuts to Alex Webster in, you know, Morrisound Studios over in Tampa. And he's sitting on the couch and he's, like, holding the bass in this really crazy looking kind of way. But, like, you could tell, like, it's meant to be, like, more comfortable while he's recording those crazy ass bass parts. But the way that you just see him, like, he's like playing it effortlessly, but it looks so freaking fast on his right picking hand. And I've always been really into kind of seeing that behind the scenes in the recording studio process. I'll look at shit like that and it'll like reinvigorate me to want to go back and either write new stuff, record stuff that I have, and it's just like what a time we live in where you can find a whole bunch of stuff like this, all over the internet. YouTube especially, you like there's no shortage of stuff that you can find on here. With all the years now that it's been up, there's just been so much time for people to put up, pretty much anything under the sun. And not to mention, like, all these cool documentaries, Cannibal Corpse. They have one of, like, their early years till now. And I watched that one. I was actually watching that yesterday during my lunch break at work. And it's just extremely motivating. It just lifts me back up and it makes me want to fucking, attack work to get the day over with and then come back over to my house and continue to work on stuff. It's like I could be totally exhausted and I watch something like that and it just picks me right back up and I'm like at 10 all over again. 0 to 60 just like that. Another one that I own, I left it at my parents' house, but since they have the whole thing and other parts that I don't own on DVD after that, I just get to watch them all, and it's so cool. But my favorite one is the first one, the early years, Iron Maiden. If you look up Iron Maiden the early days, then you'll be able to watch the whole thing on YouTube. Because Iron Maiden themselves, I guess it's their YouTube channel, they put it up, so, if anybody hasn't seen it, I would really recommend it. It's really fascinating, and I'm a huge Iron Maiden fan. It's really cool, and you see, like every single one of these bands, it's never been like an overnight success for some of these really successful bands. It's always a grind at the beginning. And just seeing, like, their dedication, all the work that they put into it, I don't know, it's almost like a recklessness, but like a tenacity, where all these things just keep on, like, kind of telling them, like, no, or these bad things keep happening, and they're just pushing through it, and it's really fascinating to me. It's really motivating and inspiring, and I hope one day I'd be able to tell some kind of story like that, to be able to inspire people that are, that are in the position that I am right now, of trying to do this, and sometimes feeling like their stuff isn't good enough, or, like they feel like they'll never get to that point, because everybody has to start somewhere. But anyway, yeah, these are the things that I've been thinking about. I think it's really, really cool. But, I think I should start looking at some of these questions here that, people have been asking. I put up a post yesterday, last night, asking, for questions, because, the whole Thanksgiving shit that happened, not that many people saw nor commented for ideas on this next one, so I just wanted to get a little bit of an interest up for it again, and see, just what would be a good thing to be able to hear about. Sometimes I'm not really sure what to say to be able to carry through for like 40 minutes, or more than that. So, it's good to get an idea of what other people also got on their minds or that they're curious about. So yeah, I'm going to look for them right now and start chipping away at it. Okay. So, I don't know if this is I don't know if I should name names. I guess I'll announce the person that I guess had the most, to me, the most interesting question. Um, I don't want people to think that this is like, their question wasn't interesting if they don't win or anything like that. I think everybody had some really great, things that they wanted me to talk about. So it's actually pretty hard to choose. So, I mean, considering that I want to get rid of some of these, maybe I'll choose a couple people. I don't know. I'll see. So, I'm not gonna say anybody's names. Just I don't know if they're down with that or not. But I'll write to them after this is done. Whoever wrote the question, obviously you'll know who you are. So yeah. So this one was a bunch of different suggestions at once. So I might tackle some of these. I don't know if I'll get to all of these, because some of them have longer answers than others. Somebody asked if I could talk about how it was like working with Robert when he was, in Xasthur. And yeah, I always thought Robert was really cool. For those that don't know, I joined the band right before the Doomgrass album, before it was renamed Xasthur and it was still considered Nocturnal Poisoning. I joined right before that, so Robert was still singing in the band. And, I really admired both Robert and Scott because, they had already gone, by the time Doomgrass came out, Robert was already doing this for a couple albums. So, I got to get familiar with his voice through listening to the albums beforehand. And I really liked what he was doing. I feel like his singing on a lot of songs on that a Misleading Reality album, I always thought that those were really great. Tracks that he contributed on. Some of the highlights I think would be, let's see, trying to think off of names off the top of my head on that album. Word on the Street, that one's a really good one. Has Been, which I always wanted to play, but I don't know, I don't think Scott really likes that one so much, but I feel like that version on that album is really powerful. I really like how he did it on Casualties of the City, the last track on that album. Let's see, Refund on Paradise, I thought he did fantastic on that, which I guess at that time it was kind of like the single in a way for that album. That was the first track that Scott had shown, and he did it through Milo's channel. Milo is a friend of ours, and he was helping Scott out at that time by showing previews of some of the songs when they were coming out. Let's see. Anyway, once I joined, I had mostly been practicing with Scott, just me and him by ourselves. Robert was doing other stuff, personal stuff, and I don't know. He didn't really come around a whole lot for most of the time, that I was in the band. He did show up, quite a bit of times also, but considering, how long I was going for, I was going every weekend once we got the ball rolling on it. And for a while, Robert would come over, maybe if not every other time, maybe once every few weeks or something like that. Which is fine, it was cool. He still came through and performed good. And we played the first show with him, which photos and videos, exist on Scott's channel on YouTube. Maybe I could put some links to it and stuff. There's this one that I thought was pretty cool. The first festival that we played at was called Thirst for Light. And we have a video of us kind of sitting in a circle, a small 30-person circle, and playing, the song Prisoners of Our Own Needs. And I thought that was, I remember playing that, being right there, and it was really cool. And, he played a couple shows after that. We played a show in Glendale at the complex. R.I.P. because it's not around anymore. And after that, we also played with him in Oakland, at a friend Buffy, her house. She had a show there at her house, and we were invited and stuff, and we played there with him. And I don't know if we played any other shows with him afterwards, because, some stuff went down after that. And, we started trying to focus on recording that Subject to Change album after that, so we didn't really play shows for a while there. And, it was right around the time of recording Subject to Change that Robert kind of started showing up a little bit less and less. It was a kind of a rough period there for a while, and I don't want to really get into specifics because I don't know if it's cool to talk about some of the stuff. I don't want to draw any kind of, wrong attention to anything, and maybe at some other point, maybe if I have Scott talking on here with me one day, maybe we can touch upon it together, just knowing that he's here and he's willing to talk about it. But, Robert kind of stopped showing up a little bit, and, it wasn't anything bad. None of us had a problem with him. He didn't have a problem with us. Actually, after me and Scott started living in Alhambra again, Robert and us, we used to hang out with him all the time. We used to hang out like once a week at the very least. But, that was much later on. That was, 2017 or something like that. So that was like a year after the whole Subject to Change thing had happened. I believe we started recording it in 2015, late 2015, November, through until like January or February. And then we released it May of 2016. But yeah, so the first song that Robert and I recorded singing on, which was the first song that I had ever recorded singing on in the band, was Shit Creek. Scott was doing all the instrumentals by himself there at the house. He was knocking them out really quick, and he did that within a span of a month. Due to necessity, this album, in a way, took several months to do, but it was rushed at the same time because we didn't have a lot of time to record it whenever it was time to go and record. And I'll get into that a little bit later right now, but, I think it had been right after the show that we played at the complex, the night afterwards, because I believe Robert either stayed there or he went back over to his house and came back, the day after to work on some of the shit, on some of, the recording stuff. And I remember, I came up with the melodies to sing on that. I was like initiating it, and then Robert was kind of following along as I was recording, the lyrics for the first time on that song. And most of it was pretty improvisational, and we were kind of punching in every line at a time. And there wasn't any redos. So I'm not really fond of the album myself. I feel like if we had time that we didn't have we didn't have that kind of time to be able to go back and redo them till they were perfect. And I was a lot younger. I was like 18 or 19 or something like that when I did them. So I didn't really have as much experience singing. I was fairly new to it. Later on, once Robert left, I did it more out of necessity than anything, because nobody else was volunteering to do it. Nobody was coming, up to us or messaging us or anything saying they were willing to do any singing. So I just took it over. But anyway, so we did that one. Then stuff happened. Scott left, his home in Alhambra the first time. And then, we did some on and off recording for the next few months. And then, in December, Scott was like, Scott called me and he was like, hey, we should try to finish this as soon as we can. I don't know when we're going to have another chance to really record. And it was around this time, early December of 2015. Scott came over to Fontana. We went to a hotel, Comfort Inn, I think. It's right where the fuck, I forget. It's either the 215 or the 15 on Foothill. Foothill Boulevard in Fontana. It's going towards the direction of Victoria Gardens. I think it's right at the border on Foothill between Fontana and Rancho Cucamonga. I think it's like once you cross that overpass of the freeway that it's right next to, you're in Rancho. Something like that. Anyway, so we went to this hotel and I basically knocked out all of my vocal tracks within the span of like 2 or 3 days. We would just stay in there recording, going out real quick for a break, coming back in, recording until the nighttime, and surprisingly we didn't get any complaints there at the hotel. I was thinking, because some of it, I thought I was singing so loud that somebody was going to say something. Maybe at that time we didn't have anybody on either side of us, so we didn't get caught. But I have a photo of it somewhere, of the little Tascam mixing 8-track console thing on the table in the corner of the hotel. I might have it posted on Instagram still. I don't know for sure, but I could, I guess I could post it in a story or something like that as like a reminder. But yeah, that time was pretty hectic and crazy, but, it's, again, no chance for a second take or anything like that, so, this whole album basically turned out the way that it did, mostly because of necessity. And there was very little that we can do about it, because we were so pressed for time. Once we kind of found a little bit more of a stable ground, it was like, do or die, like it's now or never, and we gotta put it out, because if we don't, we're definitely gonna sink, and this is probably not gonna be able to, we're probably not gonna be able to survive as a band if we don't do something now. Speaking of April, May of 2016, we were both in very dire consequences, or in dire straits, or whatever you want to call it, and we were both broke as fuck. We didn't know what else to do besides this music thing. So, at that time, Scott was living at an apartment at the beach, and I went with him. I moved out there, and we were doing stuff every single day. Just, getting ready to promote the album, sending it to some people, to have it on their websites or whatever. We put it out, and we sold a lot of it, and we would be going over to the post office there at LAX every single day, with tons and tons of mail to send out, and they fucking hated us there. I remember, we would be there for like 4 hours every single day, and, it was a lot of money. We got quite a bit, but we also spent a whole lot of it too, sending everything, because there were a lot of like overseas orders and stuff. And ever since then, like the rates have just been going up, and it's been crazier and crazier. But anyway, that's beside the point. But that's how that whole thing, with Robert kind of happened. He just kind of started showing up less and less again during that recording phase, and he contributed. He did the original track for Parole Fearing on that album, and he sang it the perfect way. I wanted to do it that way, but our voices kind of sounded too similar doing it at that same level, in that same pitch. So I tried doing it higher, and I think it sounds fucking horrendous. I wish I would have come up with something else, but it was really on the spot, and I had nothing else, that I could contribute at that time. So it is what it is now. I can't change it, and I don't know. Some people seem to think it's okay. I don't. I never listened to this album ever. And I really want to be able to listen to something, that from here on and be like, you know what? I don't mind this. I'm not running towards the skip button or just to turn off the fucking radio, CD player, vinyl player, whatever, and check it out the window type thing. But at the same time, it's a learning experience. And hopefully this next time it'll be much better than how that one turned out. I think the songs are really good on it. I think the songwriting's pretty great. I like the riffs and everything on those songs. It's just, for me, it's mainly my performance that I didn't really like. So, yeah. Alright, so a question that Lauren asked me was, if you had 2 extra arms attached to you, would you play a double neck guitar or bass, 2 guitars or drums, and guitar at once? So that Boris album cover that I had talked about on another episode, they talked about, on the album cover, that they referenced Nick Drake on, the guitar player had a double neck guitar, except instead of it being like the Jimmy Page 12-string and 6-string guitar, it was a 6-string guitar and a bass. And if I had 4 arms, I would play that at the same time, because I really love playing bass also. And to be able to do both would be, I think, really cool, and it would play more into the one-man band thing. But unfortunately, I didn't grow up to be a caterpillar or a centipede or anything like that, so sucks for me, I guess. But Lauren, I love you, but I can't give you the shirt. That'd be cheating. And then, in the same thing too, Joe was asking, or not Joe, sorry, they were asking about Joe Malady, how he joined the band. And basically, I first met Joe in Salt Lake City on our first US tour. And I think he kind of went along the same lines of how I joined in a way. I don't know if he was learning. Yeah, he learned some of the songs on his own. And we stayed at his place the second time around that we toured the U.S. And this was, again, before he joined the band. And he was showing Scott that he knew the songs, some of the songs too. I think it was Doomgrass and Past That. And, Scott was like, hey, we could maybe use another guitar player, so we got him on board. And, he's great, he's a great guitar player, and he can finger pick really good. And he writes some of his own stuff as well under the Malady name. And I think it's pretty damn good. If you guys want, I think he has some stuff up online. I'll try to look for it and put a link on my description if I can find something. But yeah, that's pretty much how it is. Pretty straightforward. But, damn, I'm already at over half an hour. I should get to some other questions here, because some of these are pretty cool. I got much better suggestions than I thought I would. Somebody asked how I got in, they say that I have a unique guitar playing style, which I appreciate that a lot. And they want to know how I got into playing and some of my biggest influences. And I've already kind of discussed this in previous ones before. I think it was in that episode 2 of how I got into music in the first place. But my biggest guitar influences that I can say right off the top of my head right now is, I'd say probably Malcolm Young from AC/DC. I'm not much of a lead player, even though I admire Angus's playing a lot, I felt like that backbone of it was really Malcolm. Not just as a rhythm guitar player, but also as like a leader of the band. And, the timing is just so spot on, and I love him I love his guitar playing so freaking much, and I was really sad when he passed away. Let's see. Another influential guitar player for me, as I mentioned before, is Nick Drake. I think I mentioned that either on the last one or the one before. I forget. These things blend in and I never listened back to them or anything. Johnny Marr from the Smiths, mentioned him that time too. Randy Uchida from this Japanese punk metal band from like the 80s. One of my favorite bands because the guitar playing is just so amazing. Their name is Gizm. I guess it's supposed to be some kind of like, I forget what they call it, anagram? I don't know if that's when you switch the letters around, but it's like G period, I period, S period, M period. And they've had a whole lot of meanings to it, none of them that make that much sense to me, but they're a great band. They only released 2 full lengths, and they have a whole bunch of other like loose recordings, but I think they're fucking fantastic. Insane guitar playing, and then Randy Uchida also had a solo thing that was only 2 songs long, but it's called the Randy Uchida Group, and they have a song called Deathly Fighter, which is an amazing song. If you guys have gotten this far listening to this, after this video is done or whatever, you guys should definitely check that song out. Deathly Fighter by the Randy Uchida Group. The guitar playing on that is so fucking fantastic, and it's been really, really important to me as a guitar player. Another guy, and I can't think of his name off the top of my head, but he is the guitar player for Héroes del Silencio. That guy's guitar playing is amazing. Their first album, El Mar No Cesa, that one is amazing. That whole album is nothing but fantastic songs, and I think that one is, it's got a lot of sentimental value to me. And this is, I guess, kind of a segue into another question somebody asked, which was, if I could travel outside of the country besides Mexico, where would I want to go and why? So, one thing I've never really discussed before to people, and especially I haven't mentioned it here before, is in 2010, I actually went outside of another country that wasn't Mexico. In fact, I went to 3 countries. In the summer of 2010, right after I got out of middle school, my family and I took a trip to Europe, and we went to France, we went to Italy, and then we went to Spain also. And we were out there for a whole month, just going from place to place, and within the country we would go, and stay a few places, a few days here in this place, and we would go for a week over here, and just go everywhere. And we drove through all of this. And that Héroes del Silencio album is a CD that I picked up at a store, like a big Walmart-type store in Spain. I mean, I knew about the band, way before I went to Spain. I grew up with their music. Maldito Duende, Entre Dos Tierras, those songs. I've known about those songs since I was like 4 or 5 years old. And I was like, I saw that CD there, and I thought to myself, like, damn, this is a really cool kind of like souvenir thing that I could use. Or not use. I mean, I guess I did kind of use it as an inspiration later on, but I mean, I was, 14, and I thought it was going to be, because I thought, Maldito Duende was kind of like a really heavy kind of song. And they're kind of like a band that are really heavy without being like crushing, distorted riffs or anything like that, or raspy vocals and shit. They're heavy, I guess, in their subject matter, but also there's just something about the vocalist, Enrique Bumburi. His voice is like deep and it's powerful, and like there's a darkness to the guitar playing that I really enjoy. And not all the songs are depressing or anything like that. Some of them are actually quite happy, but there's something in it it's like an intangible that I can't wrap my head around completely, but it's something that I feel has been really important to me in the whole songwriting aspect of it. And I wish I could sing like that guy. That guy has an amazing voice. But yeah, and I loved Rome. We went to Rome. We were in Paris, and when we were in Rome, we took a tour of some of the ancient ruins, and my mom fucking, when nobody was looking, when the tour guides weren't looking or anything like that, she fucking put an ancient brick from one of those ruins in her purse, and she actually was able to bring it back over here. So somewhere in our house, maybe on the fireplace mantle, I don't remember, she has that brick still. And it was just a really cool experience all around. I hope, I haven't been to Europe or anything like that since, and I hope one day I'll be able to go, not just as a tourist, but somebody that's also making a living while going out there and playing music. Whether it's there, whether it's in the UK, anywhere of those countries in the UK, if it's Japan, fucking somewhere in Asia, elsewhere, China, Korea, whatever. I would love to be able to explore all these different places. South America, I've never been there either. I mean, shit, even though I've gone to Mexico a lot of times throughout my life, I'd love to be able to go out there and play someday. I think all of those places would be amazing to experience. I love traveling. I think that, going back and forth from here to Mexico, and especially that trip to Europe and just seeing that totally different way of life over there, it's made me really love to travel, and that's why this touring shit is so awesome. We've done US tours. I can't put my finger on it exactly. I think it's like something along the lines of like 42 or 43 different states that I've been in this country, and I just love every minute of it. I'm definitely a wanderer, and just love taking it all in. Let's see. Other topics here. Somebody said underground versus mainstream music. What is your opinion on today's mainstream music, and where do you see the music industry going in the future, and why? Now, whether it's underground or mainstream, that doesn't really matter to me. I mean, one of my favorite artists ever is about as mainstream as you can get, which is Kendrick Lamar. And I haven't mentioned these guys either, but Gorillaz was also really important to me as a songwriter. And at one point, they were the biggest thing ever. And I loved them when they were the biggest thing ever. I'm not really a music industry label person, so I can't really say where it's going. Not to mention, it's a little bit broad. But I feel like with, the internet and all the social medias and YouTube and stuff like that, it doesn't necessarily matter if you're not at the top of the food chain when it comes to, being number one and being mainstream and all this. Everybody, I'm not going to say everybody has a fair shot at, kind of like making a living or making it, whatever, off of the music stuff. But I feel like the door's open for more people, at least, than it used to be. From what I heard, it was damn near impossible to get your foot in the door. And if you did, the chances of never cracking it and just going one album, then kind of disintegrating after that, whether you guys were together or not after that, was like really high. And while it's still really high and still kind of a difficult thing to get yourself into and making a living off of, I feel like the opportunities are better there than they once were. I don't know if that's going to improve, if it'll get worse, if it'll kind of stay at the same level. I'm not really good at this type of thing. As far as predicting that, I'm just going to try to do the best that I can. I want to be inclusive with my music stuff. I don't want to be like, this music isn't for these people. I don't want to do that type of thing. the more people that listen to my stuff, the better. I welcome everybody. That being said, though, I don't feel like I should have to censor what I say or what I talk about in my music or change my style in order to become more mainstream or whatever. I just want to do the stuff that makes me happy. And I hope that me being me will be able to get myself to the point where, people are interested on a bigger scale of hearing my stuff. And, that's about all I can hope for, because I don't want to cheat myself and cheat people by doing something that I'm not into doing. I feel like that wouldn't come across very genuinely at all. It's like sounding annoyed as fuck while smiling or something like that. Like, you can tell that you're not feeling that way, and I don't want to be that person. So, I don't know if that really answers anything, but I don't have a problem with artists, whether they're mainstream or underground, just as long as I feel it's genuine and it comes from them and it's good music. That's it, pretty much. And then I think this will be, the first winner, I guess. I think the other one will go, okay. I think this is going to be the winner of the t-shirt thing, giving one away. Because it's like, again, I'm not really an insider as far as what trends are or, how to make it, because I haven't made it. I'm not in that position to be able to stand on a pedestal and kind of be like, hey, this is what it is. This is how it's like. This is mostly just my observation. But it says, girls in the music industry, do you believe they have better chances of making it out there than guys? Or do you feel like they have an equal or less of an opportunity as them? And this is kind of a difficult thing, and I'm giving it to this person because, in a way, they've really kind of been making me think since last night about this. And I can only speak of it in my perspective. I can't speak for ladies. I'm not a lady myself, obviously, so I can't, I just can't, I can't speak for them in this way. But from what I've seen, and this ties into the things that I was talking about just before right now, about there being more opportunities just in general for people because of the way that the music industry has changed due to the internet. I feel people have more of a shot now, and really it just comes down to, I feel like, the tenacity of somebody to keep going for it and not really stopping or giving up. Because I feel like women in the music industry have a little bit of a harder time, because from what I've seen, people will kind of be like, oh, a girl, I wonder if she can play. And, a lot of women that are doing music are extremely talented, and it comes as a surprise to people, as if somebody couldn't, whether they're a girl or a guy or whatever, couldn't pick up an instrument, play it for several years, and actually get good at it because it's their passion. And I feel like that's kind of fucked up. I don't feel like that happens as much to dudes. But I feel, once you demonstrate to people that you got skills, whether you're a guy or a girl, you can keep on progressing if you just stick to it and don't let up. Especially now, if you can develop an image for yourself and you have, integrity with it, and you can inspire people to try to do the same, or to try to be better people, or, just do better by the people around them. I feel like that type of thing has a lot of longevity, because, image is an important thing also when it comes to that. And I'm not saying it has anything to do with presenting yourself in a way that's like, just anywhere in particular. Like the whole sexualization or whatever. I don't feel like that is a thing that you have to do in order to make it, especially nowadays. I don't know if that was, from what I can think of examples before in the past, it feels like that was a thing that was pushed a lot. And I don't think that's necessarily a thing that you have to do it now. But, yeah. Again, this is basically somebody that's also on the outside kind of talking about this. But I have seen many more examples, across different genres of more like women that are out there and that are really doing it and on their fucking grind. And I think that's really awesome. And I feel like a lot of them don't necessarily or aren't necessarily putting themselves out in that kind of way. Or if they are, I don't think they feel like they have to in order to be able to make it. If they're doing it, it's because they kind of like they want to be doing that. And more power to them. I can't say nothing about that. That's their thing. So yeah, I'm gonna write back to you and ask you for the details, and I'll send out a shirt. And hold on here, Gianluca. I will also try to send you a shirt because you've been sending so many suggestions throughout all these episodes, and I really appreciate that you've continued, to listen in on this stuff. This is probably the longest running one that I've had so far, and I don't think I got it through through some of the questions that were asked, so I apologize if your question didn't get answered, but I want to get to these because some of these other ones are really good too, but I'll try to get to them on the next time. But yeah, don't let up on the questions. If you guys have more questions, I want to try to answer them all to the best of my abilities. And hopefully I would be able to get, more people listening in on this because I want everybody to have a say on how this goes, and how the direction of this podcast goes as well. It's me talking about my opinions on stuff, but I also appreciate others' opinions on things as well. And it doesn't just have to be people asking me about these broader types of things. It could be more specific stuff too. Like if you have, if you want like suggestions on certain things, I'm not going to say I know everything about everything, of course. But, I've gotten to know a little bit more about recording stuff. If you're just starting out and you want to know about how to do certain things with the recording, I can help you guys out on that. And, we could learn together even as we go along with certain things. But yeah, that's pretty much it. I'm going to stop this now before it comes into like an hour. I love you guys very much. Thank you for listening, and thank you for all the suggestions, and thank you guys for the support. I really appreciate it. Thank you. Hey guys, I forgot to add, I'm going to try to put a discount code on my store for those same exact shirts that I'm giving away. They were at 15, but I really, really want to get rid of as many as I can. I want to make some room, less stuff to take back to California, but also I want to be able to have some room for potentially some new stuff, a little bit later down the future once I can put out this album and everything. I don't want to have a whole bunch of old stuff just laying around and collecting dust. So I want to get rid of as many of these as possible. I'm going to try to do it before I put this video up, and I'll leave information in the description if you guys are interested. Thank you guys so much for your support. Bye.